Do you want more? More time, more balance, more love, more sex, more money, more real, and less bullshit? This is the Women Wanting More podcast with Dr. Karen Osborne. Real life, real stories, plus real tips to get you more of what you want.
So I recently did a Facebook Live video on the Women Wanting More Facebook page asking a question. And I shared it with some of my private Facebook groups, including my group coaching program called The Sisterhood, which you can go and access at drkarenosborne.com/sisterhood. And the question was this. What is your number one question you have about healing your marriage? Now, so I asked this question because the majority of when I've been speaking more and more into marriage, because so many of you are telling me, like, this is really what you need. Like, this is your biggest problem in your life right now. This is the biggest challenge. This is the thing that you are most distraught about, you feel most stuck about, like you don't know what to do. It's not about your body and your health. Like, listen, you can Google anything and find shit out. I know some of you, follow me and see me boxing and, see the physical shape that I'm in and go like, oh, how do you get that? But like, let's just be clear about this. It's not fucking rocket science to build your body. It's just not anymore. It's not. It is, and lots of you have some stuff maybe about parenting as well, but, it's like some about business and making money and like all of that. But really the biggest theme from all of you is about marriage. And it's not about making it better. And let me explain why. And then I'll get to one of the comments, one of the themes that I'm seeing with the answers that women are giving. And I've got tons of them so far and that are still coming in. So let's speak into this then. Let's speak into why it's about healing and not making it better. And so making it better is kind of like I explained this in a podcast recently. It's kind of like you're trying to build onto an old house that just doesn't fit up to the codes of today, right? And so as you're trying to kind of like do that type of thing, you're renovating an old house, you start opening up all these problems that you just don't even know that exist, right? And when you bring that past stuff of the house into trying to create this present modern home, there's still a lot of the old past stuff that just doesn't, like, you can't do anything about it, right? Unless you actually just completely demolish the house, which where I live in Victoria, BC, a lot of not a builders will do that, or people will buy up a property, they're really old homes, they'll like down to the studs, or they'll just like demolish everything, new foundation, and build something brand new. And this is really what came to me the other day as I'm reflecting and journaling and studying on my own. And it's just like, man, you know what? This is really what's needed. And I was like, well, what really worked in my marriage? What really worked is we had to just kind of say, like, we need to rebuild something brand new, something we've never done before. And so it means we're going to need to do things we've never done before. Weekly date nights is one. Having hard conversations, not numbing and sedating about it, being honest, not being afraid to collide and go to war and have fights. Be willing to invest in each other every single day. All things we had never done prior to 3 years ago in our marriage. And so it dawned on me, I'm like, man, this is not about how do you make your marriage better. It's about how do you heal shit and actually create something brand new. And so one of the biggest themes that I'm seeing from women is this, we're going to call it the Naggy wife. Maybe we'll call it we'll call this podcast episode which is don't be the Naggy wife. Okay, so what does that mean? Now, it's a hard thing. Some of you might hear that and you're like, really fucking triggered. I would have been before too. I'd be like, I'm not a Naggy wife. Listen, we've all been that before, sister. Let's just be honest about it. And our husbands have all been dicks at some times too. That's just what it is. And our kids are fucking difficult some days. And life is fucking hard. Like, let's just call a spade here, right? There are times that we have been Naggy bitches. The Naggy wife. And it looks like this. You never, do enough. You're not listening to me. Why can't you listen to this podcast and come to this seminar with me? And, why can't you read these things? And why can't you see? And blah, 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 blah. So this is how it comes towards them, right? Here's how it comes towards me when I ask you these questions. It comes like this. I'm moving in a different space as he is, and we're just not on the same page anymore. Or why can't he level up and see what I'm seeing? He's not interested in making himself better. He wants to stay exactly the same. How can I help him see? How can I convince? How can I tell him? How can I, and it's a lot of thinking that you know what is best for your husband. And I completely understand exactly where you're coming from because I've been there, right? The way I would kind of explain to my husband at times was I'm like, babe, there's things that you can do this is years ago, there's things you can do that can really help you. There's people that are actually reaching out to you and you're pushing them away. I said, to me, it's like watching you bang your head against the wall repeatedly and saying, I can't understand why my head hurts. See, for you and I, we might see it's clear, but here's the biggest piece of this. Here's the biggest piece. Let's say even if you have answers for the problems that your husband is experiencing, problems that are affecting your marriage, affecting how you're parenting, affecting business, his ability to earn, affecting his sense of purpose, fulfillment, spirituality. Let's say even if you had the path, like you had a book which was called, How to Heal My King. And you open up the book and it was a step-by-step, do this step and then this one and this one and then this will happen. Then you do this and who the fuck are you? Hear me now, sister. Who the fuck are you to think that you need to be his savior? Who are you to think that you have all the answers? And just know when I'm saying these words to you, sister, I'm saying right back to my former self. Who the fuck are you to say that he shouldn't be on his ass right now in the fucking pit trying to figure his shit out? Because that's exactly where he needs to be right now. To figure it out. To pull himself out. Who are you to tell him what to do? He's a motherfucking man. Now, I didn't realize until probably 2 years ago what I was doing to my husband. Being the naggy wife. In a podcast episode a while back, which was entitled something like Don't take his balls away or something like that. I'll link that up in the show notes. But my love, this is true, my love for him, my intention of let me help you, let me show you, which really was kind of down to let me save you, let me tell you what to do. Not trying to be the naggy wife, but showing up this way was actually not only, and saying babe, you're powerful, do this kind of thing, right? Thinking that this was a way for me to show up powerfully, was to show him, and what I actually was doing was stripping that power away from him. I was stripping away his ability, let me rephrase that. I was stripping away his opportunity to pull himself out, to save himself. I was robbing him of the gifts that was happening when he was in the pit, when he was in the shit. And when you do that to your husband, to your king, sister, you do the exact same thing. And I know it's out of love. And I know it's out of intention of I just really want to help my man. And I know it's really hard to understand this too. I know it is. And I know you don't want to see him suffer. I understand all that. I do. On a deep, deep, deep level, I get you, sister. I see you. But when you do this, you rob him of his ability to stand up as a man and to find the answers. The gifts that are happening right now in this place. So let me give you an example. So my husband was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in 2009, 2010. Sometimes it seems like so long ago, but it's a little blurry on the time. I was just kind of think of, so then added emergency surgery a year and a bit later, year or two later. And I know that time period because our oldest son was just 7 months old. So it was 2011, May. Ed had emergency surgery to remove a blockage in his colon that was fatal. It was emergency surgery. And And leading up to the diagnosis, when he just wasn't recovering from marathons and exhausted all the time, and I'm like, what's wrong with you, kind of thing. I was more like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, get the fuck out of bed. Like, I didn't understand what was going on. And I'm very much from the thing of like, just pick yourself up and move the hell forward. Like, you know, empathy for me is, and as a female, this is almost it's a hard thing to admit. It's a difficult thing because a lot of people just think that as women, like, we just have this empathy and this compassion chip that's built within our DNA as women. But like, quite honestly, I don't have a lot of empathy inside of me. It's very hard for me to, like, I really have to intentionally put myself in someone else's shoes, because I just see what I would do, and I'm like, what's the problem? Just pick yourself up, because I'm operating as me, and it's difficult for me to put myself in someone else's shoes. So that's why when I speak to you, sister, and often a lot of you will tell me it feels like I'm talking to you. It's not because I have a lot of empathy. It's not because compassion comes to me easily. It's because I've walked where you've walked. I've walked where you are right now. And because although just like I felt like I was all alone, and like I felt like nobody got me, nobody understood me, nobody was hearing me, nobody was listening to me. I had a story from a young child of nobody hears me. That I allowed that to continue on for literally decades as a grown-ass fucking woman. And go, I'm so alone, nobody gets me. And then I started to like share my story 6 years ago and kind of begin to open up this whole thing and went, holy shit, you feel this way, and you do, and you do, and you do. So like, you're not alone. These are things that a lot of women go through, a lot. But what I didn't realize was, yes, every time I did that with my husband, I stripped him of power. And how would he often respond back? Numb, sedate some more, go more inside of himself, when all I wanted to do was like, let's talk it out. Let's have a conversation, right? I'm going to do a whole other podcast on like, we are different as men and women. John Gray, the whole from like years ago, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, like such fucking truth in that. We are literally like, we are different. We are not the same. And until we respect our differences, we will continue to have shit that comes up. Which is, men don't openly want to have discussions about shit like we do as females. And what do? Let me get in your face, and like, this is how it feels to them, right? Let me get in your face and fucking like try to force shit out of you when I don't want to talk about it, and I don't want to I need to figure this shit out. I remember John Gray would talk about men going to their caves. I just remember that piece of it. I don't know if I ever read the whole book, but I kind of got the gist of it, right? But we want to really talk it out as women. Men don't want to do that. And so when we sit there, like I remember this, have you seen the movie Good Will Hunting, sister? Amazing movie, by the way. If you have not seen Good Will Hunting, holy shit. So Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, it's the movie that they won an Oscar for Best Screenplay because they wrote it. They were like, it was their first, it wasn't their first movie, but it like first big movie for both of them, which really exploded their careers and gave them names. And Robin Williams was in it, and Minnie Driver, incredible movie. But anyways, there's this scene because Robin Williams plays the therapist to Matt Damon. Matt Damon has grown up in a tough house, being abused. He's like brilliant, like he's genius brilliant, and he's like a janitor at Harvard, because it's in Boston, in Harvard, and he's solving math equations. They're like, who is this? And they find out who he is, and so, but he really fights against, any of that stuff, because he doesn't see himself that way. He's this brilliant fucking guy. But anyway, so he starts seeing Robin's the therapist, and they're working through some of the past abuse stuff with him, and he talks about, there's this really pivotal and to me incredibly moving scene where he talks about the abuse stuff and how he said that his dad would say, do you want the belt or you want the wrench? Like, choose which thing he's going to beat him with, right? And Robin Williams looks at him. Oh my God, it's like I can go right back to that scene again because it's so incredibly moving. And he looks at him and he said, it's not your fault. And Matt Damon goes, yeah, I know. And he goes, no, it's not your fault. And he goes, yeah, I know. He's like, no, it's not your fault. And you can he keeps saying that over and over in this very kind of soft, like loving, comforting way, like, it's not, son, it's not your fault. And he keeps getting physically closer to him. And then he's mad, and then it just kind of like breaks Matt Damon, the character Matt Damon plays in the movie. And he just starts sobbing, and he's like, Robin Williams is holding him, and he just releases all of that, right? It's a beautiful, beautiful scene. And so I remember seeing that movie and going, oh, that's what I need to do. I need to, it's a fucking movie, right? And it's a different, like, even if it was real life, and this was the thing with therapy, you're like, it's not going to happen, right? Like, maybe it's going to happen. There's going to be that breaking, but I thought, if I just keep pushing hard enough, eventually Ed will break. He's going to have this release, and, we're going to all have this happy ending now. And it was like, no, it didn't work that way. Maybe it worked that way in that movie. Maybe it would have worked that way with me. Like, that was maybe my way of going about things or receiving things, but like, it's not the way it was working with Ed. And so I kept trying to push and push and push. And what I ended up doing? I ended up pushing him away. And what I really came to realize was that, number one, my husband's life is not mine to live. Yes, it impacts me. Yes, it impacts my children. Yes, it impacted when we were in business together, and we still do business things together now and share things, of course, but it's his life to live. It's his power to find. When I let him be on his path to figuring that stuff out, everything started to shift inside of him, and it continues to this day. So here is your more tip for today, sister. And this might not be something that you really want to do, but I'm going to say it anyways. Pick up your journal, and I want you to write how you're a naggy wife. And what is one action that you're going to take to really begin to change this? Because I can tell you from experience, it does not work. My experience with my clients. You feel like you know what's best for him. What's best for him is him to figure it out. What's best for him is to support him and say, I'm here for you, but not to fix shit for him. So journal this and see what insights come up and what action you want to take as a result of this insight. So finishing up this podcast, sister, a couple of things. Number one, I mentioned the sisterhood earlier. You need to get inside here. This is a way for you to see that you are not alone. And if you really want to learn, how to heal your marriage and how to connect more with your children and how to really remember and discover and create who you are in your life, then the sisterhood is a place for you. So this is over at drkarenosmer.com/sisterhood. Number two, make sure to subscribe to the Women Wanting More newsletter so I can send you the More For Action Guide, which is how to start your day in power, and two very, very powerful videos on which I had only inside exclusive Facebook group that I run called The Experience, private Facebook group, which was on how to really remember who you are. Like, where do you start? So 2 videos, one that's on how to drop your stories, and the second one was how to create new ones. And so I'm going to give all of those to you as a gift for being on the newsletter. Plus, you're going to get VIP access, so be part of the Women Wanting More tribe. So that's over at drkarenosmer.com/action guide. And number 3, I created something for you to wear who you are, for you to have an alignment with how you think, what you believe on the inside, sister, is reflected from the clothing and the words that are on the clothing that you wear on the outside. So that's why I created the Women Wanting More store. So that's over at shop.womenwantingmore.com. You're going to see pictures too of the women all over the world that are picking up t-shirts and tank tops and hoodies and beanies and mugs. And there is actually a new line, the King and Queen collection, and you'll be able to actually shop for your man as well too. T-shirts, trucker hats. What else we've got for the men? I think it's just those 2. No, I'm missing one other thing. Anyways, we've got the King and Queen collection for you guys to actually wear Queen and King together. And that's again over at shop.womenwantingmore.com. When you enter in the discount code podcast at the checkout, I will give you an additional 10% off as my special gift, and shipping is on me. So that's over at shop.womenwantingmore.com. So I will talk to the next episode, sister. A life of more is just one step away from me doing the fucking work every single day. I love and appreciate you.
To get the show notes of each Women Wanting More episode, including the How to Get More tip, subscribe to the newsletter at drkarenosmer.com/newsletter.